ago, JK Rowling apparently said something that deserved her being wiped from the face of the entertainment industry, that a woman is a woman, and anything other than a woman can't be a woman. Apparently this was immediately transphobic, and the world has decided that, okay, thanks very much for the books, thanks very much for the movies, you don't exist. Well, past couple of days, Harry Potter himself, the actor Daniel Radcliffe, has turned around and said that he disavows her comments and, of course, identifies with the LGBT theatre crew.
Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button. And if you're returning, welcome back. I truly do appreciate your continued support on my channel, and I hope that you are subscribed as well. So I want to talk about this video that went viral just a few days ago of this teacher really challenging a young adult. I'm not entirely sure how old this student is, whether they're in high school or in college, but challenging them on the beliefs that they have, particularly in this instance about JK Rowling, but so many things in this conversation are so relevant to how kids are being educated today. Just as a lead up, here are my thoughts on a few things. When we tell kids to learn to think critically, it seems like it is completely lost on them. And it's not because the words that we're saying that they don't understand what we mean, it's that they honestly have no idea what it means in practice. Because today, particularly when it comes to these kids that are graduating from what are primarily left-wing colleges and learning institutions, they think that when we say think critically or think independently, it doesn't actually mean to think for yourself, but to adopt anything. And I mean anything that opposes tradition, that goes against whatever conservatives say, and to be brave enough to accept anything, even if it is completely absurd. And even if every one of them is doing exactly the same thing of opposing tradition and opposing conservatism and accepting the absurd, then to them, they are still independent thinkers in this massive group while everyone is saying and doing exactly the same things. Because whatever is accepted by the larger group, that must be what's right, and therefore it doesn't need to be questioned or investigated. And we can see so many examples of this on a daily basis, especially when it comes to trying to communicate with these young adults, especially if they are going to or have graduated from one of these universities, where you would think that they would graduate with an even stronger ability to handle being challenged on their beliefs and be able to defend those beliefs with evidence and data. Instead, they emerge as college graduates who respond to being challenged with fear, with protest, and often even crying. That, and they're stuck because they have spent years in an echo chamber where every class and every professor and every classmate is saying the same thing. And they have no idea that there is plenty of room to challenge what they've been taught, and that the evidence to back up those challenges come in the forms of things other than what someone in the media has said or what thousands of their peers have tweeted. So recently, this video went viral because it's of a teacher demonstrating what it actually looks like to teach someone how to think, not what to think. And it gives us this rare glimpse of what it looks like to actually force someone to shut out all of the noise and put independent thought into play. And unfortunately, because this is so rare, it will make you feel like you're witnessing something that is truly miraculous. So the subject of this discussion is JK Rowling. JK Rowling, of course, is the author of the wildly popular Harry Potter series, and though she has been known as someone with left-leaning political views for most of her life, in recent years, she has been heavily targeted by the left because she has put her foot down when it comes to men calling themselves women and the impact that it has had on women's spaces, rights, and opportunities. So her reasonable and science-based views on this particular subject have put a giant bullseye on her back to be regularly called bigoted, hateful, and transphobic, and every other name that leftist activists have chosen to throw at her, despite the fact that up until like 5 minutes ago, she was their ally on every single other issue that they stand for. And as we have seen, even the cast members of the Harry Potter movie series, including Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson, have flung their share of nasty comments at her because she has dared to point out the numerous risks, the harms, and the actual dangers that have been inflicted on women as a result of radical left-wing beliefs and policies that allow biological males to gain access to women's spaces, athletics, and even prisons just by having to meet the incredibly low bar of growing their hair out and changing their names. And because of the heavy influence that the left has on education, on the news, on social media, on pretty much everything, the young targets of their biases and leftist conforming ideas, which are the opposite of diverse and inclusive, believe that because it's all they hear, then it must be true. But it's not true, and this teacher exposes it beautifully. So again, this is a teacher sitting down with a student who has repeated the unfiltered, unchecked, and unchallenged assertions about JK Rowling that he has heard repeated in the media, on social media, by leftist educators and peers, that she is transphobic, that she is bigoted, that she is hateful, that she has it out for the transgender community. But he found himself in this conversation in a space that was completely foreign to him. And that is the space of realizing that what he had been led to believe was actually not true. So here's the video and let's talk about it.
So these guys want to talk about JK Rowling? Is that so? What's going on with that? What do you want to know?
She's had a pretty controversial past. I just want to know, like, what are your thoughts on it? And, like, do you still like her work despite her bigoted opinions?
So let's get specific, though. Let's define bigoted opinions. What opinions are bigoted? We're going to treat this as a thought experiment. I'm not going to say what's right or wrong or what way to think. The whole point is to learn how to think, not what to think.
Yeah.
So when you say bigot, you're starting with the conclusion that given her bigoted opinions.
Yeah.
So first let's start with, does she have bigoted opinions? So when you say bigoted opinions.
She has had a history of being extremely transphobic, I've heard.
Hey, you've heard. So what? Can you give me an example?
If you look at her Twitter, I think you could see a few things. If you want, I could try and find something.
See if you can find one.
So I love that he is stopping him right there. And he's like, let's define your terms. You say that she is bigoted. What does that mean? She says, you say that she's transphobic. What does that mean? Do you have examples? Do you have personal examples? Have you seen this behavior? Have you heard things from her mouth that you personally would define as bigoted? Regardless of what everyone else has said, let's just look at what our definitions are and then see if she actually meets those definitions.
One of these tweets that she came out with in 2019, she said, "Dress however you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consenting adult who will have you live your best life in peace and security, but force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real."
So you find that bigoted? What do you find about
it was
in there?
It was deemed transphobic. I myself.
Do you find that transphobic yourself?
I don't really have an opinion on it, but I'm just going with.
It's interesting because he's already kind of flipping the conversation. He started out this conversation asking if this teacher still supports JK Rowling based on her bigoted and transphobic views, meaning he wasn't even interested in having that idea challenged. He just wanted to see where this teacher's allyship lied.
A lot of other people have said.
So let's pause there. Let's not go with what other people are saying. Let's try and learn how to critically think. So let's analyze the tweet ourselves. So that statement, do you see anything problematic? Disregarding other people's opinions.
She did try and pin some things on a specific group of people.
Where does she do that? Can you read that?
But force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real.
So when I hear that, I'm interpreting that as meaning if a woman says that, saying that there's a difference between men and female and then being attacked as transphobic, I think that's what she's saying by attacking someone for stating that sex is real.
That is exactly what she's saying.
Is that transphobic to you?
So, to me, No, stating that sex is real is not transphobic. It's just a fact of life. It exists.
So is there anything you disagree with in that tweet?
In that tweet, I can't really see anything that I myself disagree with, but
I just want to clarify. This is the tweet a few years ago. It's been 5 years now, that got this firestorm launched at JK Rowling. This is the first one where she was truly put on the map by these activists as transphobic. And like I just said, this individual came to the conversation not being ready to be challenged on these ideas, but challenging this teacher on his support of somebody who he had heard was transphobic. And it makes you wonder, did you actually go back and read the tweet yourself? And as this teacher is going to encourage him to do, to shut out the noise and analyze it for yourself and look at what she was actually saying. Was she actually targeting a group of people, or was she trying to say that we need to have these boundaries in place because there's more than one group of people's rights that we have to consider? And he's coming to the realization how much of his own research he did not do and how much he was truly relying on what other people had told him and other people's analysis of it. And because all of these other people had deemed her hateful and bigoted and transphobic, that he was basing his assumptions about her based on that. And not doing his own research and not being an independent thinker is not doing him any favors.
some people would think, oh, this is offensive. We can't have that here or something, because
Sure.
There's an apology tweet.
Let's read that. What did she say there? I haven't read that.
I respect every trans person's right to live any way that feels authentic and comfortable to them. I'd march with you if you were discriminated against on the basis of being trans. At the same time, my life has been shaped by being female. I do not believe it is hateful to say so.
You see anything problematic there?
She's apologizing, so no, not really. If I could read it again.
It sounds like a very similar statement as what she was just saying. She's basically saying, like, I have nothing, to me, this is what I interpret it as, I have nothing against someone being trans.
Exactly.
It's your life, but you just don't get to impose on you can live how you want, I can live how I want.
Yeah.
And let's all,
Exactly.
And she is 100% correct. And we hear all of the time that, especially from left-wing activists, that you don't get to impose on other people if you have not had their lived experiences, particularly when it comes to race. But regardless of what your views are on whether or not being transgender is a thing, we can have that conversation all day. The fact of the matter is that if you are someone that wants to be referred to as the opposite sex, no matter how many surgeries and how many hormones and how many things that you do in your life and alter your body and all of the ways that you alter your mind and body, you are still never going to have the experiences that come with being born a biological female. That is not a hateful statement. That is not said to make anybody feel bad. The only way that we can be truly compassionate to people is to ground their expectations in reality.
I guess now that we're looking at it like, oh, there's not much difference between me or her, do you think it's fair that that she's being attacked by a large group of people and people are calling her, like you said at the beginning of this conversation, you said, given the fact that JK Rowling is transphobic, how do you feel about Harry Potter? Now, retroactively looking at that statement, do you think that was the best way to phrase?
No, I feel like an idiot now.
And kudos to this young man for having the humility to recognize where he was wrong, because that is another thing that is severely lacking these days. And I understand that it is going to take a lot more than humility to get a lot of these people to recognize just how wrong they are. Because if they're wrong, then they contributed to the mutilation of children. If they're wrong, they took countless opportunities from biological males. If they're wrong, then they allowed predators to access women's spaces. So there is a lot hanging in the balance. There is a lot at stake for these people to come to the table and recognize that they were wrong, which is probably why most of them never will. But all of that aside, this is exactly what every teacher should be doing in every school, in every classroom, in every university. And you know, if a teacher or a professor is truly interested in education, that this is what they are going to do with their students. But you can tell that all of the teachers and professors that this kid has been exposed to up until this point were not interested in education, and that the thought processes he has been taught to adopt were really not thought processes at all, because he was never processing anything and he didn't even know it. But I love how this teacher approached the conversation, because those of us who are trying to have these conversations can learn a lot from him. Not once did he tell this kid that he was wrong. Not once did he attack this kid for what he believed. Not once did he belittle his own educational experience or where he got his information from. And not once did he call him prejudiced or bigoted for the information that he brought to the table, as wrong as it was. All he did was ask him to separate himself from his peers, to consider what he was reading, and asked him to compare that to what he believed, and then asked him to analyze if the two aligned. Does what you believe align with what evidence suggests? And what this kid also demonstrated was how harmful it is when you just accept things because it's what everybody else is saying. And this video popped up on my Twitter account the other day, and it demonstrates this point perfectly.
What is 15 times 4?
15 times 4.
Gosh.
20, 32, 23.
20. I'm say 20.
48, 48. 48. It's 48.
I would say 48 with her.
I'll say 48.
Why did I say
48.
This shows how powerful this group think is. Because everybody in the group is saying the same thing, they all felt comfortable repeating the answer. No one bothered to get out a calculator to verify if 48 is actually the answer. They just heard what all of their friends were saying and they thought, that must be correct. I'm gonna go with that. And now, anytime in the future, if someone asks them what 15 times 4 is, they're going to say 48. And their reasoning will be, well, it's what I heard my friends say, so I just assumed that was correct. And this conversation is just one of many that we have seen play out in numerous conversations, discussions, topics, subjects, especially over the last few years. If you watch any conversation with Ben Shapiro or with Candace Owens or with Brandon Tatum, as they go to universities and talk to college students, there are so many that will come to the microphone when they're asking questions, and they will call Ben Shapiro a racist, or they will call Candace Owens a white supremacist. And they will say, okay, provide evidence of me being a racist. Provide evidence of me being a white supremacist. Provide evidence. Show me something that I have said that backs up that accusation. Every single time, because I have never seen anybody pull up a tweet or a comment or a news article that backs up this, what they're accusing these people of. Every single time they will say, well, I don't have one on hand. I can't think of something off the top of my head. It's just what I have heard. I have never, ever, ever, ever heard any of them ever back anything up that they are saying. I hope that we get more teachers like this. I hope that we get more professors like this. I hope that we get more people in the public space that are encouraging these young people to analyze what it is that they think and compare it to what it is that they have heard and what it is that they are basing those opinions and beliefs on. Of course, we know that that is not the goal of public education these days, but to turn people into mindless, uneducated sheep who are easy to control. But we can see what happens when we put these beliefs to the test. Please leave all of the thoughts in the comments below. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Keep it real, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.